The gentleman, Mike Vereb, calls up House Resolution 501, printer number 2291, on page 9 of today's House calendar. That will be read by the clerk.
A resolution expressing profound sorrow and heartfelt condolences on the passing of Brian Kadunc and recognizing his contributions to the House of Representatives and this Commonwealth.
The question is, will the House adopt the resolution? At this time, the Speaker recognizes Representative Mike Vereb.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today about an employee who's also a dear friend. As many of you know, Brian Kadunc, who worked with me since 2007, passed away last month. Brian had traveled to Virginia and North Carolina to tour battlefields, which was one of his hobbies. He suffered a heart attack, and after weeks of emergency medical care, he passed away. While most people in Pennsylvania probably have never heard Brian's name, his work has directly affected them. Brian played an instrumental role in helping me to write, introduce, and eventually pass Pennsylvania's sudden cardiac arrest law. This law was the first of its kind in the entire United States. Thanks to this law, youth athletes, coaches, assistants, referees, officials now must receive training about sudden cardiac arrest. I have no doubt that Brian's work on this law will save lives in Pennsylvania. One of the tragic ironies of Brian's passing is that it gave me an opportunity to meet his family, who live in Chagrin Falls, Ohio. After Brian suffered his heart attack, but before he passed away, I traveled several times to North Carolina to be with him and his family. I got to know his father, James, his mother, Catherine, and his sister, Melinda. We shared stories about Brian and laughed about our fond memories of him. Mr. Speaker, I could stand here and tell you that Brian is a proud graduate of Villanova University. I could tell you he was a devoted Wildcats fan, but he never turned down a Temple Owls ticket either. I could tell you Brian served as an employee at the House for 10 years, but these simple facts don't convey the true essence of Brian. To truly know Brian, you had to see him smile. Now, as many of you know, our former Speaker, Sam Smith, was from Puxatawney, and I think everyone, at least in my caucus, knows Sam didn't go a day without a good ribbing from me or some type of practical joke. I met with my coach, Leader Dermody, for our softball game for last year, and I informed him that a groundhog would be showing up at the softball game to terrorize Sam, who was coaching the other team. Now, Brian was not in that groundhog costume, and nor was I. But the reaction to that groundhog was watching Brian in the dugout, seeing his creative prank work to one more time give a shot to Sam, as says that would be his last softball game with us. The essence of Brian Kadunc is simple. He operated in the background, but his efforts produced results. He was quick to laugh and went out of his way to make others laugh with him. Mr. Speaker, Brian was taken from all of us far sooner than any of us would have liked at age 38. However, we are grateful for the time we enjoyed with him and the impact we had on all of our lives. He had on all of our lives. In the rear of the house, there are several friends, family, and co-workers that are with us. Mr. Speaker, if it's appropriate, if they could rise and be recognized. And to my left, the left of the Speaker, I have my staff from here and in Collegeville, Candy Heckman, Laura Smith, Dan Massing, Julian Nacarado. We also have friends of the family, John Mead, Mary Pat Mead, and a dear friend of Brian, Christy Dolan Martone. I'd like to thank Brian's family for commuting here today for this very important day for all of us. And at this time, I'd ask James Kadunc, his father, Catherine Kadunc, his mother, and his sister Melinda to please rise and be recognized. I'd also like to thank my many colleagues for supporting this resolution and for the outpouring of support you have shown in the aftermath of this tragic event. This resolution marks one last sign of appreciation from the institution Brian served for so many years. We hope that it provides his family with some measure of comfort to know that Brian's life every day impacted so many lives here in the Commonwealth. I obviously ask for an affirmative vote, and I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your time.
Thank you, Representative. Members, at this time, I would ask that you all rise for a moment of silence, given the passing of Brian. Members, those in favor of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. Members will proceed to vote. The clerk will record the vote. The yeas are 199, the nays are 0. The resolution is unanimously adopted. May God bless Brian and his family. Thank you, members.